What's up guys, Infernape here. Now a while back I made my top 10 strongest Yu-Gi-Oh monster cards. And I feel like that did a brilliant job if you ask me. So I thought I would expand on that and find out the top 10 strongest spell cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Obviously somewhere down the line I'm going to be making a top 10 strongest trap cards, but today we're talking about spell cards. Obviously spell cards are probably the best thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Apart from the monsters. Because let's be honest, traps don't really function a lot in current Yu-Gi-Oh! Meta. So we heavily rely on monsters and spells. So I thought I'd go over what I believe are some of the strongest spells in Yu-Gi-Oh! Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below if you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it, if you think I missed a card, if you agree with the entries on this list, and if you have any video suggestions for the future, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. So without further ado, let's get into the video! At number 10, we have Terraforming. Now, I'm sure everybody knows this card. It's literally probably one of the most famous cards in the game. And I'm sure all of you have used it once. In either a fun deck, or maybe even in competitive. Terraforming only adds one field spell card from your deck to your hand. But honestly, that's all you need. Because honestly, this card will help you get the field spell that you need. And let's be honest, there are a lot of archetypes that run off of field spells. For example, Cyberdarks. Cyberdarks are one of my, probably if not my favourite archetype of all time. And even though I don't use Terraforming, I can use it should I choose to. Honestly, there are so many other decks that run off Terraforming that honestly it kind of becomes a staple card to use in some situations. Nowadays, there are cards that kind of specifically add a certain field spell from your deck to your hand. For example, you could use Cyberdark Claw in order to get Cyberdark Inferno from your deck to your hand. But for those who don't, Terraforming is still a very valuable card to have in your deck. Like, for example, maybe you could use it in a Blue Eyes deck, for example. Honestly, there's so many situations that a Terraforming card can be used. And honestly, I feel like it's a tad underrated. I don't really see Terraforming used that much in either Master Duel or maybe Duel Nexus or anything like that. Honestly, I feel like Terraforming could use maybe a bit more love, but I can understand why it's not as used as it is anymore. At number 9, we actually have a very old Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. One that I didn't actually expect to be in this list, but that being Change of Heart. Obviously, those who have seen the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime know about Change of Heart. It's one of the favourite cards of Bakura. So, honestly, I feel like this is going to be an interesting topic. With Change of Heart, you can target one monster on the field, then take control of it until the end phase. It is quite a decent card. Yes, it may not be as used anymore, but it's still very powerful. Like, literally, you could just take control of somebody else's monster. And honestly, it'd be a good end game. For example, let's say you're running a bit low on life points, and like your opponent's running on like 3,000 or 4,000 life points, and they control a monster with 3,000 or 4,000 attack points. All you need to do is play Change of Heart, take control of the monster, and just wipe out the rest of their life points. Change of Heart, like I said, isn't really used that much anymore, but I honestly still think it can hold up to today's meta. Like, it is a very, very powerful card. Like, imagine you're in a tight spot, Change of Heart, goodbye life points, and goodbye opponent. Honestly, I feel like Change of Heart is a bit underrated. Like, we should use it a bit more if I'm being totally honest. It's such a brilliant card. Like, it may not be as usable in some decks, but in certain decks, it can work. So honestly, give Change of Heart a try in maybe a Spellcaster deck. That could be a good alternative. Like, yeah, just place maybe a Change of Heart in your Spellcaster deck, give it a go, and honestly, I feel like it would work very well. At number 8, we have a very OG card. Let's see if you guys remember Graceful Charity. It is such an OG card, and I kind of wish I had a physical copy of this card, honestly. Because this card is a brilliant card. For those who don't know, Graceful Charity allows you to draw the top 3 cards of your deck, but then asks you to discard 2 cards from your hand to the graveyard. But in today's metagame, that is not a hindrance. Because do you know how many archetypes there are that revolve around using the graveyard? There are many. Literally, some of them that come to mind are zombies. Zombies are a perfect example of this. Zombies love the graveyard. So you could use Graceful Charity in your zombie deck and then just send in a bunch of cards straight to the graveyard. That would be brilliantly played. I don't actually know if Graceful Charity is banned or limited, but I wouldn't be surprised because it is a very useful card, especially in today's meta. Because like I said, most archetypes that you see nowadays revolve around putting cards in the graveyard. And honestly, that kind of makes Graceful Charity even more powerful than it was when Yu-Gi-Oh! First came out. So, honestly, if you have the opportunity to pick yourself up a Graceful Charity, use one. Because honestly, I would recommend using this card in any deck that revolves around putting monsters in the graveyard, or maybe an archetype that becomes stronger with cards in the graveyard. Like, for example, zombies, like I said. Like, maybe even a... Oh, what's another good one? Oh, dinos. Dinos are a brilliant example. I know dinos seem to really love the graveyard. Like, no matter where they go, dinos love every part of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Board. So yeah, honestly, if you have the opportunity to add Graceful Charity to your deck that love the graveyard, use it. At number 7, we have Pot of Prosperity. Now, I wasn't sure if I wanted to add this to the list, but after Dr. Amnesia convinced me, I decided to put it on here, because depending on which deck you put it in, it's pretty decent. Banish 3 or 6 cards of your choice from your extra deck face down for the rest of this turn. After this card resolves, any damage your opponent takes is halved. Also, excavate cards from on the top of your deck equal to the number of cards banished. Add 1 excavated card to your hand. Place the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. You can only activate Pot of Prosperity once per turn. You cannot draw cards if card effects the turn you activate this card. In other words, you can choose to banish 3 or 6 cards from your extra deck of your choosing to the banish zone, and if you get rid of 3, you get 1 card. If you get rid of 6, you get 2 cards. And this could work in not as many decks, but the one deck I would recommend you put this in is definitely Dino decks. The reason I would recommend dinosaurs is because they don't really have like many boss monsters in the extra deck. Honestly, I don't really think they have any. So honestly, you don't really need an extra deck for dinos. All you really need to do is fill up the extra deck with a bunch of crap, then just play that card, get rid of your crap, and then keep drawing cards. And then you'll eventually have a bigger and better hand to use against your opponent. And that's what kind of makes dinos kind of broken, if I'm honest, because they don't have a boss monster that they need to use in the extra deck, and they love being in every part of the deck, like the deck, main deck, field, graveyard, banish zone. They love everything. So honestly, I'd give it a go if I'm honest. At number 6, we have a card that I'm sure a lot of you have used in past decks or current decks. That being Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn is honestly one of the most famous cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! And for good reason. It's broken. Monster Reborn allows you to revive any monster that's either in your graveyard or in your opponent's graveyard. So if you don't have a monster in your graveyard that's strong enough to defeat a monster that your opponent controls, or maybe if you don't have enough attack points to defeat your opponent's life points, all you need to do is use Monster Reborn to see if they have a monster in their graveyard that can help you out, and if they do, you can steal it off them. Like with a lot of cards on this list, Monster Reborn can work in pretty much every single archetype and any kind of deck that you can think of, because it works brilliantly in any format. It is limited to one, I will admit that, but if you're able to find a card that has the power to get a spell card from your graveyard back to your hand, or maybe even back to your deck, you instantly get to use Monster Reborn again. And if you are able to get that card out again, and then get it back into your hand or back into your deck, you can have an endless process of using Monster Reborn, getting it back into your deck or hand, and then using it again, and the cycle just goes on and on and on. Honestly, this is a broken card, and I'm honestly surprised it's not banned. I'm pretty sure it has been like on the ban list or on the limited list for quite a few times. Like some days it will be banned, some days it will be limited, but honestly, I think it should be banned, because honestly, if this strategy works, you'll have an endless cycle of using Monster Reborn and getting it back, and the whole cycle just continues on. At number 5, we have Raigeki. Now, Raigeki has a simple power, but sometimes the simplest of powers can cause the most devastating of problems. Like I said, Raigeki's ability is quite simple. It destroys all monsters your opponent controls. But that alone is broken, because your opponent could just stack up monster after monster after monster that sweeps the majority of your fields, and you could be down for like 400 life points. Then you just simply play Raigeki and destroy their entire plan. Then you could have a literal free-for-all of their life points. Honestly, Raigeki is busted. It's yet another card that can work in almost every single deck. It is absolutely busted that it's so laughable. I personally had my ass handed to me because I was stacking up monster after monster and sweeping this guy's life points, and I was feeling quite cocky. But one Raigeki spell and my entire plan went out the window. And right after that, I had to quit the game, because honestly, that one card screwed me over. So honestly, Raigeki is absolutely busted. Like, I'm pretty sure it was on the ban list for a very long time. I don't know if it still is, or if it's moved to limited, but honestly, I don't think that it is a weak card. I think it's an absolutely broken card. No wonder it was on the ban list for a really long time. At number 4, we have Heavy Storm. Now, I was not 100% sure if I wanted to put Heavy Storm on here, because originally I had Harpy's Feather Duster. But honestly, Heavy Storm is still quite a decent card. Heavy Storm allows you to destroy all spell and trap cards that are set on the field. That being ones in the spell and trap card zone, and also the field zone spell. But it also means that yours end up getting destroyed along with them. Now, I was a bit skeptical at first, like, do I really want to give up my own spell and trap card in order to get rid of theirs? But it was pointed out to me by David, also known as the Actor Amnesia, that some spells and traps actually work when they're destroyed and sent to the graveyard. Like, one prime example of this was actually Gear Town that I thought of, because Gear Town, when it's destroyed, allows you to special summon any ancient gear monster from your deck straight to the field. So, that's always nice. Another thing that Heavy Storm allows you to do is if you want to use more spells and traps, but you don't have the room for them, you can easily just activate Heavy Storm, sweep yours off the field. Oh, and look, you just destroyed their back row too. So you not only freed up more room to do more things with your back row, you also got rid of their back row, so that way they can't defend themselves from you. So that kind of proves how decent a card Heavy Storm is. Can't remember off the top of my head if it's banned or limited. I mean, you know, wouldn't be surprised if it's either or, but it's still a busted ass card. At number 3, we have Called by the Grave. Now, this card, from experience, is busted. Honestly, I have got my arse handed to me by this card a few times, and I'm not surprised why. This thing is quite a devastating force. Target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it. And if you do, until the end of the next turn, its effects are negated, as well as the activated effects and effects on the field of monsters with the same original name. This card screws over one of the strongest cards in the game, that being Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. Because once it activates its effect and decides to send itself to the graveyard, all you need to do is activate Called by the Grave, and it's gone. Honestly, this is a busted card. I have had my arse handed to me because of this card, because it is a very, very strong card. I don't know if it's bad. Honestly, it should be. Because if it has the power to destroy cards that are probably strong enough to dominate the not the VGC, basically the card game. I can't get my words out, I'm very sorry. But basically, if it's strong enough to destroy the competitive card game, it is probably a very powerful card. Literally, if it destroys Phoenix Enforcer, it deserves to be here. Because Destroy Phoenix Enforcer is a busted card. At number 2, we have Dark Hole. Now, again, I was not 100% sure if I wanted to put this on here, but David convinced me otherwise. Dark Hole destroys all monsters that are currently in play. Whether it's yours or your opponent's, everything gets wiped. So, that kind of means that you lose your monsters, but your opponent also loses theirs. However, in current meta, that's actually kind of good for you and possibly for them, because think about it, a lot of cards love the graveyard. It's just a thing now. Everything just seems to love the graveyard. So if you're able to send stuff to the graveyard, that you just combo off of that. And if your opponent currently has cards out on the field that can't do combos when it's sent to the graveyard, you're just getting rid of their entire field. Then you can set up with combos while also building up your field to destroy their life points. Also think about it like this. If you combo Dark Hole with Heavy Storm, you're basically destroying every single person's back row and front row to then combo off of it, so that way you can basically wipe out your opponent's entire field while also wiping out yours in order to play off of it to build your front and back row, so that way you can destroy your opponent as quickly as possible. Plus, this card works in a lot of decks. So honestly, if you can, use Dark Hole, because honestly, if you combo it with Heavy Storm, it's gonna obliterate people and probably make them want to rage quit. And finally, in number 1, we have Pot of Greed. Now, I'm sure some of you may think I'm joking, because last time I put Silverfang to then go straight into Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, but this time I'm not. Pot of Greed is the strongest spell card in the game. Even a novice to Yu-Gi-Oh! Knows what Pot of Greed does. It allows you to draw 2 cards. Literally, that's its only effect. Allows you to draw 2 cards from your deck. Now, it may not seem like a lot, but it's literally a free card that allows you to draw 2 cards. Plus, think about it. Pot of Greed allows you to draw 2 cards. You're better off using a 40-card deck. But with Pot of Greed, it's like you're really running 38 cards. Because activate Pot of Greed, you draw 2 cards. Get what I mean? So honestly, Pot of Greed is a very powerful card, because it allows you to draw cards, so that way you can build up a better hand. Plus, there's also this. It works in all archetypes. Every single archetype you can think of, it works. You know, it just works. So honestly, you should run Pot of Greed if you can. It is a very expensive card though. Like literally anywhere you try to look for one, it's gonna be mega expensive. But it's worth it because it is a very powerful card. Plus, here's the kicker. I personally believe that it works best in spellcasters. And let me explain why. If you use Pot of Greed, for example, and you decide to play either Magician of Faith or Dark Magician of Chaos, either one of them has the ability to get a spell card from the graveyard straight back to your hand. So then, if you decide to play their effects again later on in the duel, that is literally infinite pots of greed. It may be the same strategy I use for Monster Reborn, but it works for both cards. Honestly, you can infinitely get Monster Reborn and infinitely get Pot of Greed. That's why I tend to use both in my spellcaster deck. So that way I can infinitely draw cards and infinitely bring monsters back from the graveyard to destroy my opponent. And honestly, that's why I love Pot of Greed so much. And now then guys, hope you enjoyed the video as much as I did, and be sure to let me know down in the comment section below if you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it, if you agree with my list, if you think I missed a card, and if you have any video suggestions for the future, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. Did you enjoy the video as much as I did making it? If you did, be sure to give it a massive thumbs up, comment down below, share this video with a friend, and if you're new, subscribe to my channel. It's been Inferno today. Okay, that's all from me, so until the next time, this is Infernape, signing off. Bye!